maybe your feelings aren't yours to begin with. There's magic binding you, Eric, and that's not love. Days passed, and Eric felt himself growing more and more trapped in emotions he couldn't explain. On one hand, he felt closer to Liora than ever before. Every time they spoke, there was a peace he had never known. But on the other hand, something strange stirred within him. Like an invisible force was pulling the strings of his mind. That morning, Eric walked to class with hurried steps. From a distance, Leonard greeted him with a sharp gaze. As if he wanted to say something, Eric felt uneasy, but pushed the feeling aside. He had to find Liora. In class, he sat beside her, just like always. Liora offered a gentle smile, and Eric's heart raced. But something was missing, important that left his heart feeling hollow. Liora, Eric said softly, do you feel like there's something off about me? Like I'm not really myself? Liora looked at him with tender eyes. I feel it too, Eric. I can see it in your eyes. Like a part of you is gone. Suddenly, a knock sounded on their desk. Leonard stood before them, worry written all over his face. You two need to talk, he said seriously. Eric, there's something you need to know. These feelings aren't truly yours. Something has changed you. Eric stood abruptly, his face flushing. What are you talking about, Leonard? Don't tell me this is about that tree again. Leonard bit his lip, hesitating. Liora, you need to understand. Eric didn't fall for you on his own. It's the tree's magic. Magic that bound him to you. Liora froze, her eyes wide with shock. Eric, on the other hand, looked increasingly confused and shaken by Leonard's confession. Eric, I can't pretend anymore, Liora said, her voice trembling. I'm scared. I'm scared this will end badly, that I'll end up hurting you. Eric stared at her in silence. His heart pounded harder, but it felt different, heavier, more chaotic. He wanted to understand, but also wanted to run from the truth that was slowly revealing itself. After class, Eric walked into the forest behind the school. There, he stood before the great tree that had granted him these feelings. Tree of hope. All the memories of the wish he once made played in his mind, making him feel small and powerless. Tree, Eric whispered, what have I done? The wind rustled softly through its branches, and for a moment, it was as if an answer brushed his heart. A wish born from pain will one day lead to healing. Eric closed his eyes, a storm of guilt and confusion washing over him. Was this wrong? Should he follow these feelings, or should he free Liora from the magic that bound them? Elsewhere, Liora sat in her room, staring at the wooden bracelet Eric had given her. Her heart ached, but she couldn't ignore the feelings that had grown inside her, feelings that perhaps never should have existed. She touched the bracelet's surface, whispering softly, I want to know, is this real love? Or just an illusion? Suddenly, a knock came at her door. Liora turned and saw Eric standing in the doorway, uncertainty written all over his face. Eric, Liora began, but the words caught in her throat. She didn't know how to continue. Eric took a deep breath. Liora, I don't know what to do anymore. I feel like something is wrong, but I don't want to hurt you. Liora lowered her head, overwhelmed. I feel the same, Eric. I don't know what to believe anymore. I just know. I don't want to lose you. They stood in silence for a while. Then Eric spoke again. Liora, before all this, I was arrogant and foolish. I thought my wealth gave me the right to look down on others. But being with you, even under circumstances that might not have been my own choosing, I've learned something I never understood before. What is it? Liora asked, her voice barely a whisper. That feelings can't be forced, but they can grow from the most unexpected places. Liora looked up, their eyes meeting. If you want to end this, I'll understand, Eric said. If you want me to walk away, I will. Liora was silent for a long time. The wind blew gently through her hair, and the leaves danced around them. I want to know who you really are, Eric. Without magic, without any influence, just you and me, she said softly. Eric nodded slowly. Then we have to undo the wish. Bring me back to who I was before. Liora hesitated. And what if, after that, you hate me again? Eric gave a faint smile. Then let that be the test. If this love is real, it will grow, no magic needed. Together, they placed their hands on the trunk of the Tree of Wishes, silently declaring their intent. Break this magical bond. Let our true hearts speak. In an instant, a warm light surrounded them. The air felt lighter, and a voice inside their hearts whispered, "The wish has been undone. The choice is now yours." Eric looked at Liora, and something within him felt different. There was no magical pull, only sincerity, and as he smiled at her, for the first time, he knew it was his own choice. A few days after the wish was undone, the world felt more real to Eric and Liora. There were no longer magical sparks wrapping around their every encounter. No more mysterious warmth suddenly embracing their hearts. All that remained were two teenagers who once stood on opposite sides, now trying to learn how to understand each other. That day, Eric waited on a school park bench, beneath an acacia tree whose leaves had begun to fall. He sat with his head down, nervously fiddling with the edge of his shirt. Liora arrived a few minutes later, wearing her worn-out jacket and holding a bottle of warm tea. "Still want to be friends with me after everything?" Liora asked as she sat beside him. Eric smiled more genuinely than usual. "That's a strange question. I'm here because I want to be, not because of magic." Liora handed him the tea. "I made it myself this morning. It's probably not as good as what you usually drink." Eric took it and took a sip. His face turned a little red. "It's bitter, but weirdly good." Liora chuckled softly. "You're so honest. Because you said we should start from zero, right? So I want to be the honest version of myself." A comfortable silence fell between them. The wind rustled the leaves, and the scent of tea mingled with the damp earth after last night's rain. "You know," Eric said suddenly, "when I was still under the influence of that magic, I felt happy, but now, even without the magic, I feel the same. Maybe even calmer." Liora looked at him, slightly in disbelief. "Are you sure? Not even a part of you went back to hating me?" she asked softly. Eric shook his head. "Maybe I hated you before because I didn't know anything about you. But now I know you're strong. You're patient. You made me ashamed of how stupid I used to act." Liora lowered her gaze, shy. "You've changed to Eric. But now, you have a choice." Eric looked into her eyes, gently. "And I choose you." Leora's heart skipped a beat. No magic, no whispering spell, but those words felt more powerful than anything else. In the distance, Leonard stood quietly, watching. He smiled faintly, then turned and walked away from the park. "If that's what you choose, I hope it's a love that lasts," he murmured. Golden light reflected warmly onto the cobbled path where Liora and Eric walked side by side, their steps in sync in a comfortable silence. Eric looked slightly nervous, his hand clutching a wildflower Liora had picked by the roadside. "Relax," Liora whispered with a smile. "Grandma doesn't bite." Eric let out an awkward laugh. "I'm more afraid she remembers the time I threw your shoe onto the shop's roof." Liora pretended to glare. "So you do remember." "How could I forget?" he muttered. "It was the worst thing I ever did." When they arrived at the small straw-roofed house, Liora's grandmother was already sitting on the porch. spinning thread with eyes that remained sharp despite the wrinkles surrounding them. She looked up as they approached. "Eric?" she asked, her voice flat but not cold. "Yes, Grandma," Eric replied nervously. He offered the flower with both hands. "I'm not here as some arrogant rich kid. Not as the boy who bullied Liora, but as her boyfriend." Grandma looked at them in silence, then gave a faint smile. "Finally," she said softly, "the tree knew what your heart truly needed, Leora's eyes widened. "You knew about the tree?" Grandma chuckled gently. "Of course. That tree only grants what's hidden, what even you won't admit to yourself." Liora glanced at Eric, then lowered her head, shy. "Maybe. I always wished someone would see me not for my money, but for who I really am." Grandma rose slowly, walked toward them, and patted Eric's shoulder. "If you hurt her again, I do know how to bend teenage legs with a cane," she said lightly. Eric laughed nervously, and Liora took his hand, stifling her own laugh. The sun began to set, but their hearts were warmed by something simple. A love born not from magic, but from the courage to change and the courage to choose. The end.